Peace and love to my family. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for watching the Corbin channel. That is the Darius Corbin channel, the home of the esoteric and the metaphysics. I thank you guys for watching. As always, it's been a pleasure. As you can see, I got my time traveling glasses on. This evening, we will be taking a time traveling trip. So if you have glasses, shades, or if you can close your eyes, open your ears, and imagine whatever your spiritual mechanism you can have and grab right now and use or utilize, you will need it for this trip that we're about to take. I'm going to finish up my bottle of water as you get ready because we're going to take a galactic trip. This is Darius Corbin Presents the Unholy Six and the Galactic Federation. We are in 2021 and beyond. This is the age of Aquarius. No more time for us to be slacking in the knowledge and the gnosis. There's a lot of stuff that has been hidden from us. It is time for us to get familiar with the knowledge and know that you are greater. But before you know you're greater, you must know your past. Because like they say, in order to know where you are going, you first must know where you have been. And we, my family, have a galactic connection. We watch Star Wars and we are at awe with the Anakins, the Darth Vaders, the Obi-Wan Kenobis. We watch Star Trek and we are at awe with the Captain Kirks and the Spocks. But how many have ever asked ourselves, how many have ever sit back and said, what is my connection? Do I have a galactic connection? Like, I know that I'm religiously connected to God, so to speak. But what about the galactic experience? How many of us ever sat back and questioned, like, man, how did George Lucas sit back and come up with that? And how many has actually researched? Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry. I guarantee you, if you really deep, and I mean deep space research on Gene Roddenberry, you will see how nonfiction Star Trek is. So tonight, as I always do with the Darius Corbin channel, with the esoteric and the metaphysics that I want to bring to my family, the elite and light ones, I want to take this time traveling experience and we are going to go 500,000 to 1,000,000 years back in time. And I guarantee we never left the Bible. So as always, whether you're watching from your kitchen, your living room, your bedroom, wherever you are, thank you for watching and let's get to it. Now, once again, before I start, if you have shades, put them shades on, utilize it. If you can close your eyes and imagine with me as I tell you a true story. Many, many eons ago, know that you are greater and know that your connection goes way deeper than just planet Earth. So here we go. Are you guys ready? Once upon a time, 500,000 years ago, there was a planet in space called Tyrantor. And that's Tyrantor. This planet had been the capital of an old indicated empire of the stars in the Milky Way galaxy. I said had been because 500,000 years ago, it came to an end. If you will permit, let us go back for a moment to a time about 1,000,000 years ago. One of the most notable achievements of the life forms of our galaxy after the elves achieved their state of timelessness. And I'm not going to stop and keep stopping that much, but I want to make sure that you know, and that you already know, if you do know, who the Els are. Ancient spiritual beings. For those who know the history of religion and their Christian religion, you knew that El was also an ancient word and an ancient name for God as well. That's E-L. For my fictional fans out there, you know Superman. In Krypton, he was known as K-L. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Let's continue. If you will permit, let us go back for a moment to a time about 1 million years ago, one of the most notable achievements of the life forms of our galaxy after the Els, and that's E-L''S, achieved their state of timelessness, was the formation of what has been called the Galactic Administration, or the Galactic Pax, which is spelled P-A-X. Now, in Latin, Pax means peace and was deified by the Romans. Although the Romans were an aggressive and warlike people, they deified Pax, which symbolized the great peaceful amalgamation of numerous solar systems into the Galactic Administration. About 1 million years ago, this League of Planets reached the apex of its power and beneficial of influence, like the Romans who were to follow them in later times. The people belonging to many planets of the administration started to look for the easy life. They were in the exalted position of representing the most advanced beings throughout millions of miles of interstellar space. The inevitable happened. A degeneration of their culture and their way of life began. The beginning of the end came for the Galactic Pax when a master computer system or mechanical brain was put into operation on a planet called Tyrantor. All the complex problems of coordination and organization existing within the administration were to be solved by the new calculating device that covered many square miles of the surface of Tyrantor. All went well for a time, but the administration leaders from all of the planets of the League began to place more and more reliance on the computer. There was more playtime for them while the great metal brain solved all matters of governing and even solved matters pertaining to diet, dress, and sex. Day after day, year after year, and century after century, the computer toiled on, calculating. The administration was disintegrating quickly, and many of the more serious-minded members of the Galactic Pax realized that something should be done immediately. They formed a delegation and presented their warning to the tribunal. They suggested that the only solution was to abandon the master computer completely and continue as they had in the days before its existence, when they were in the golden age of their administration. They were considered insane by the tribunal for offering such a suggestion. I mean, can you imagine telling people today to destroy their electric power plants and start living with candles again? The unsuccessful delegation saw the government of the galaxy crumbling about them. Everywhere they saw much evidence of the decay and death of a great civilization. They wanted to pull away from the administration, but they didn't know where to go, and besides, they felt they must stay on as long as possible. There was always the faint hope that something could be done and that the tribunal would realize the master computer system, which was to be the crowning achievement of their rule in the galaxy, had become instead a Frankenstein, a monster that was inflicting the most dreadful retribution upon its creators. The metallic governor of the administration was destroying its originators. Now, if y'all bear with me right quick, I'm going to get me a nice drink of agua. Now, this sounds familiar, right? And we're going this once again. We're in our time travel machine. We're 1,000,000 years ago. And even 1,000,000 years ago, they were dealing with technology, computers that were dictating their life. And as you see, the people got more and more hypnotized by this mass computer as this mass computer just took over. I thank y'all for rocking with me. Stay strapped in your time travel machine because we're not done. We're just getting warmed up. When the entire way of life was in the worst throes of depression and decadence, a small group of scientists on Tyrantor who were in charge of the functioning of the master computer decided to take over the Galactic administration through the use of the computer and thereby rule the people of many planets. They would be the real rulers, while the mechanical brain they controlled would be the puppet of the empire. They knew that the people, most of them anyway, would never question orders coming from the computer, for they had followed such orders for centuries and knew nothing else. They wanted and expected the computer to do all their thinking for them. Therefore, the insurrection, and it's crazy because this word has come up on news now, the insurrection, and I hope I'm saying that word right, Insurrection. Therefore, the insurrection took place quietly without war or strife. One day, when the master computer began to send out the new order of the day, declaring the birth of the Galactic Empire, at this moment, the spawn of the night, or the forces behind the downfall of the administration, caused a fork in the shining road. In a sky that had known existence since the time of the elves, never once had there been a division in the highway of the stars that linked world after world and system after system in a peaceful brotherhood, which eventually became the great and good Galactic Pax. The day the Empire was born, two roads were also created in the heavens, or we should say, two branches of the same road going opposite directions. The people were no longer united, for they were opposed by contradiction, and dichotomy was established that still exists in the galaxy today. The planet Tyrantor became the terminus planet, or Rainbow's End, for the newly created empire. From the name of this planet, we derived our word, tyrant, which comes to us from the Greek tyrannus, and that's Tyrnnos, originally meaning Lord. Let me say that again. From the name of this planet, we derived our word tyrant, which comes to us from the Greek tyrannos, which is spelled Tyrannnos, originally meaning Lord. The scientists in charge of the computer became absolute rulers through its use. The mechanical brain that was to enrich the life of the administration and bring its people to a state of perpetual bliss became a crude and usurper of peaceful sovereignty and mechanical master. Tyrantor became the lord of the empire, and its master computer became the oppressor of the former happy people. Our words tyranny, tyrannical, etc. also come from the same of the terminus planet Tyr, or that's Tyr, the war god of Norse mythology. Also obtained his name from the same source. Like all despotic exercise of power, the empire began in a grand way. The people were constantly looking for new thrills and changes in their life that had grown rather dull under the old and peaceful administration. The downfall of the Galactic Pax was to them, listen, the downfall of the Galactic Pacts was to them an entertainment, an exciting drama that they enjoyed to the fullest. Therefore, they hailed the new empire with much enthusiasm and joy. In fact, they celebrated the event for many years, and when they finally woke up, they discovered the empire was brutally exercising absolute power over them and draining their respective worlds of natural resources and manpower to be able to travel its own branch in the road in the sky to the new conquest throughout the galaxy. Tyrantor and his tyrant brain became a terror throughout space. A great military force was assembled, and where justice, peace, brotherhood, and love had ruled before, it was replaced by criminal piracy and fear. Dread and hate ruled the day. Almost immediately, the empire began to disintegrate. One by one, hundreds of planets and systems refused to pay tribute to the capital planet. But they continued to be robbed by the space pirates until they joined together with the remnant of the former Galactic administration that had never become a part of the Empire and represented the other branch of the road in the sky. Remember, they became divided. This remnant became known as the Confederation. Listen, because you're hearing about a Confederation in the news. Israel telling you about Trump. Confederation. Listen closely. Let's go in. This remnant became known as the Confederation, and it grew large and strong as many planets joined the rebellion and withdrew from the Empire and the domination of the master computer system. Y'all all right out there? I thank y'all for rocking with me. Hope y'all enjoying this time traveling trip. We are not done. This is your truth. But as my teacher, Dr. Deborah Blair, said, there is no truth until you decide what truth is. Until you decide what truth is. The rulers on Tyrantor attempted to regain control of their diminishing authority and power by the most terrible space war imaginable. But planet after planet continued to withdraw their allegiance and join the Confederation. Soon the pirates of the Empire were greatly outnumbered and were unable to pursue their former activities. The greatest scientist on Tyrantor was the Emperor. The new and powerful Confederation, which was attempting to reestablish the way of life of the Galactic Pacts, advised the Emperor and the tyrants of the Empire to abandon the pattern and policies created through the use of the mechanical despot. The advice was refused. They was trying to tell them, the Confederation was trying to tell them, look, you're not going to win, give it up, just lay down. The Empire was like, hell no. They still was fighting against the greater good. Eventually, the inevitable took place, just as it had in the days of the administration. The Empire continued to shrink until only 6 solar systems with their 6 respective star suns were still governed by the master computer on Tyrantor. Conditions became dreadful on the capital world, and civil war developed between the computer scientists. Finally, the Emperor destroyed himself and the entire planet in his Frankenstein in one fantastic act of tyrannicide. This was the end of the Empire. All of this brings us to once upon a time, 500,000 years ago. Whew. Okay, now, that was 1,000,000 years ago. We just went back 1,000,000 years ago. Y'all all right? All right. We still got we in 500,000 years right now. We're right back to 500,000 years ago. We ain't back in present time right now. Enjoy the time traveling right now. This is getting good. You're getting a glimpse. Look around. Enjoy the atmosphere right now. I mean, it's a crazy story right now, but enjoy the atmosphere. The rulers of the 6 solar systems refused to accept the reality that the Empire was dead. They still expected to receive orders from the Empire. They still expected to receive orders from the Emperor and the Master Computer on Tyrantor, although all of these had been destroyed. After finally accepting the fact that the capital planet was gone forever, along with the Great Computer, they began to place in operation the sub-computers of their own worlds. And they hoped to rebuild the Emperor or the Empire once again with the 6 solar systems as the center of operations. However, they never succeeded in obtaining the allegiance of even one other system or planet. The power of the Empire was shattered forever, and the 6 systems remaining had to depend on each other for survival. They became known as the Unholy 6. How many of you guys remember that show? I think it was back in 1983. You can Google it. I think they did another version in 2009 or 19 called The V. Google the V. Just the letter V. Tell me what that show was about. Half a million years ago, the Empire and Tyrantor came to an abrupt end. The power of the master computer was gone, although the subcomputers continue to be used. The 6 remaining systems of the Spawn of the Night, or the Unholy 6, are located in the vicinity of the Great Nebula in Orion. This nebula is within our Milky Way galaxy and is known as a galactic and diffuse nebula. It is vast, gaseous, greenish, and of irregular form. In other tongues, other flesh, and it's the author talking, it talks about how they mentioned this. And it says, the negative space intelligence from Orion are not coming directly from nebula itself, but are coming from planets of star suns, 6 in the vicinity of Orion. The word Orion is used by space visitors, the Confederation, to indicate the general area from which the evil influences originate. Orion is mentioned in the Bible, because we never left the Bible. Orion is mentioned in the Bible and in countless ancient legends to the ancient Egyptians in the V dynasty. Let me read that again. Orion is mentioned in the Bible and in countless ancient legends to the ancient Egyptians in the V dynasty. The constellation of Orion was Sahu, spelled Sahu, hunting through the heavens for God and men to rip apart and boil for food. This sounds very much like the Unholy 6 attempting to obtain an allegiance of other systems and planets. The Hebrews knew Orion as Kesil, and that's spelled Kesil, the foolish or self-confident, or as Gibbor, spelled Gibbor, the giant identified with Nimrod and tied to the heavens for impunity. An ancient Peruvian legend says the constellation of Orion is a criminal held in the heavens by 2 condors. The Peruvian legend says the constellation of Orion is a criminal held in the heavens by 2 condors. The natural resources of the Unholy 6 are almost exhausted. Now we're back in modern times. They have lived on borrowed time for 500,000 years, and their end is near. What started out as a fight to gain control has now turned into a struggle for survival. The situation for the Unholy 6 becomes more critical every day, and the rulers are demanding action. They must have resources. These rulers are not tolerant and friendly beings by any means, and they watch the Earth planet rich in mineral wealth with greedy eyes. War rages on the Orion systems now, and they feel that the powerful Space Confederation is encroaching on their domain. However, this encroachment they imagine is really freedom from oppression, which narrows down the arrow of their tyranny. The descendants of the decaded empire are found on 6 solar systems in the vicinity of the Orion Nebula, and the descendants of those in the Galactic administration who formed the Confederation are today found in the UFOs in our skies. They still belong to what is called the Space Confederation. The Orion forces comprising the Unholy Six would like to trade with the Earth, but they prefer doing it when there are no inhabitants on our planet with whom to negotiate. In other words, if they could, they will come to Earth and eliminate all life forms on it and then land and use our planet as a great storehouse of natural resources. They would literally take away the animal, vegetable, and mineral life of the Earth. The rulers of the Unholy Six want to follow the ancient trail through space that leads to the grandeur of the Elves. They know that under the earth, the crystalline world of the great time spanners, still waits to be rediscovered. They know that under the earth, the crystalline world of the great time spanners still waits to be rediscovered, and they know that the secrets of this subterranean world will give them immortality. Therefore, the Earth planet is a great prize to them, and they want to capture it. However, the Space Confederation and its many craft operating around the Earth prevents any outside interference with the divine plan now being fulfilled here. The Confederation has its aegis upon the Earth at the present time, and the Unholy Six, through its control of the minds of various individuals, also has a spy system of a sort. At this present time, there is a small group of people on Earth working for Orion. They come among you to disperse all things not in keeping with their own ideas. They prey on the unsuspecting. They astound intellects with their words of magnificence. While their wisdom may have merit, it is materialistic and not of pure aspiration towards the Father. We have our own men of the Confederation who watch over these pirates. Watch out for controlled persons in your midst. The Orion people are the intruders in your world. They cannot enter your atmosphere usually by spacecraft, but they can and do reach the Earth world by projecting their intelligence into weak earthly bodies, which they completely control for short periods of time in order to perform their disturbances. Watch for them. Their numbers increase as the sorrows of Earth increase. They will persist, but they will not succeed. We will succeed, for our mission is of the Father's authority, and his will shall prevail. Worry not about these Orion influences. They cannot harm those who serve the infinite Father. While some of the individuals working today to disrupt the plans of the Space Confederation on the Earth are serving the international bankers, others are agents of the Unholy Six. They are the intruders, the subcomputers, or the children of the master computer, long since destroyed along with the Tyrantor, are still in operation today. And many sensitives on the earth who claim to be in communication with a certain great being of space who commands literally millions of spacecraft, etc., are actually receiving information from the subcomputer system. These sensitives mistake a channel of communication used by many beings for a single individual. This is due mainly to the fact that many people on Earth insist upon identification and personification. It is true that there is much knowledge being relayed by the subcomputers to Earth's sensitives, but remember the words of the Space Confederation. They astound intellect with their words of magnificence. While their wisdom may have merit, it is materialistic and not of pure aspiration towards the Father. Of course, there are also many sensitives who are undoubtedly receiving information and inspiration for the forces of light. That is another matter altogether. A very sinister part of the operation of the Unholy Six is their use of black crystalline life forms which absorb light but do not generate or reflect any light themselves. These are used as a prime focus for the projection of their intelligence into weak earthly bodies. Let me read that again. A very sinister part of the operation of the Unholy Six is their use of black crystalline life forms which absorb light but do not generate or reflect any light themselves. These are used as a prime focus for the projection of their intelligence into weak earthly bodies. The astounding confirmation of this is the fact that in psychological case studies, black and gigantic crystals have been mentioned over and over by patients. The black crystals are used in connection with the subcomputers. If we look for the real cause behind the conflict between the Space Confederation and the Unholy Six, we find that the former are deists and the later are ideists. The deists maintain that there is one single power or deity of the omniverse of which all life is a part. The ideists maintain that the ID or personal creating power of the individual is supreme and that all things are created and put into action by the power of the individual. They refuse to accept the concept that a universal power exists. For countless millennia, there have been no possibilities of reconciliation. Reconciliation between the groups and their beliefs. Between these groups and their beliefs. While the Unholy Six is having some influence in the world today, it is little of concern in the overall plan. For these forces had had their day under the sun, and that day has been 500,000 years of continuing decadence. Their sun is about to set, and their day is done. Their power is momentarily now as the earth prepares for its graduation day, its purification day. The Space Confederation, now operating around the Earth, contains 51 solar systems consisting of 608 planets controlling some 3.5 million spacecraft. We have little to fear from the Unholy Six. I doubt if they will ever obtain any of the natural resource of Earth. However, these so-called evil worlds have served a great purpose. Those beings who have incarnated on the planets of the six systems have greatly benefited by their experience, and we see in the history of oppression and tyranny eventually good. It has been said, significant unto the day is the evil thereof, and for the Unholy Six it has been a single day lasting for 500,000 years. The elves had their day under the sun, but for them the sun didn't set. They lifted themselves above the realm of suns. They achieved the fundamental steps to divinity. Humanity has the beginnings of its day under the sun, and now that day rapidly draws to a close. The outcome depends on whether or not human beings will successfully take the first step towards divinity. If the sun set for the human race without the first step being taken, human beings will become simply another past race of potentially intelligent beings and recorded in the book of creation as a promising child, died in its youth. And the eternal workers will go on to another day under the sun of another promising race child. Sooner or later, another major race will